Dad put his arm around Tracy's shoulder and happily introduced the person standing there. "This is Dad's new wife, Lisa. Nice to meet you," he said. "I wasn't expecting this. But I already have one mom. I can't accept someone else as my mom," I replied firmly. Dad smirked. "So you're saying you'll leave because of Lisa? If you want to live with your new mom, then fine. I'll go pack my things," I said bluntly, surprising both Dad and Tracy. I started packing in my room. "Thank you for everything. From now on, we're strangers. I won't know what happens to you," I told them. A month later, Dad called desperately for Lisa's help. It made me wonder, do I still have a dad? I'm Lisa, a 15-year-old in middle school. I used to think I was the happiest kid, loved and cherished by my parents. But things changed when I was in 6th grade. "Are you Lisa?" a flashy woman asked me one day after school. I froze. Ever since I started school, I'd learned 5 important phrases: don't go, don't ride, shout, run away, and tell someone. They were for staying safe. "I'm a friend of your dad," the woman said with a big smile, her blonde hair styled up and wearing large sunglasses and bold clothes. But I knew better. Adults who say they're okay often aren't. I've seen it in dramas where kidnappers pretend to be friendly to lure children. "I know who you are, Tracy," I said, trying to stay calm. Tracy rummaged through her flashy bag and pulled out a heavily decorated smartphone with long, adorned nails. She showed me a photo on the screen. Me with my parents at a church during my first communion. It was the same picture I used as wallpaper on my phone. I was shocked. "How do you have this?" "It's not strange at all. Your dad gave it to me," she laughed, putting the phone away. "My name is Tracy. Can you tell Mom to give me Dad quickly?" she said abruptly, then left. In 6th grade, I vaguely understood what she meant, but I didn't know what to do. When I got home, I couldn't say anything to my mom, who welcomed me back. From then on, I lived as usual on the outside, but inside I carried a heavy burden. Dad was the same, kind, family-oriented, and aspiring to be an actor. But there was always that heavy feeling in my heart. I graduated from elementary school and became a middle school student. My parents acted like everything was normal, attending admissions guidance and taking photos with me in front of the school gate. To anyone looking, we were just a normal, happy family. I was lost in my thoughts when Dad's voice snapped me back to reality. He thanked the person who took our photo and showed us the screen. I wondered if Dad would also give this photo to Tracy. "What's wrong?" Mom asked, noticing my worried expression. I glanced at Mom, then at Dad, determined not to let her know. Even if Dad had a relationship with Tracy, I couldn't bear for Mom to find out. I decided to act like nothing was wrong. Maybe Tracy was just interested in Dad and said those things out of jealousy. She might have shown me the photo as a joke or to upset me. I clung to that hope, choosing to stay silent. Time passed, and shortly after I started middle school, Mom fell seriously ill. It was a disease that would take her life. "That's not true, right, Mom?" I asked her, hoping it was a lie. Mom sadly confirmed it wasn't a lie. She wouldn't be able to be with me for much longer. Mom shared something important with me with a smile. "Lisa, there's something I want to tell you. After I'm gone, I think you'll have a hard time. I'll do everything I can to make sure you can live on your own." She meant living independently, not with Dad. I understood what Mom was hinting at, but I couldn't bring myself to ask directly. It seemed like Mom thought I knew but chose not to discuss it. "When that time comes, there might be things you don't like, but I want you to believe that I did it for you," Mom said. "I understand," was all I could say. Mom hugged me tightly, happy with my response. After that, we didn't talk about it again. We carried on as a family of 3, pretending everything was normal. The only change was Mom's declining health. She grew weaker, going in and out of the hospital until she couldn't come back. Dad was always there for her, playing the perfect husband. He cooked, took care of the house, and visited Mom in the hospital diligently. But his words and actions felt forced to me. I made soup. "How does it taste?" Dad would ask. "It's delicious, Dad. You're a great cook, I replied, playing along. Get well soon and cook for us again, Dad said, acting like everything was fine. We played our roles, pretending to be a happy family, while Mom and I knew it was all an act. We spent Mom's last days peacefully, trying to make the most of our time together. About 2 years later, when I was in the third year of middle school, Mom passed away. Losing a parent is incredibly painful, something only those who have gone through it can truly understand. At the wake and funeral, Dad played the part of a grieving husband perfectly, shedding tears alongside me. After the funeral, I found myself alone. People told me to stay strong with Dad, but I had made a promise to Mom to strive on my own from now on. Dad became distant, hardly coming home. Dad is busy with work. Lissa is big enough to be okay on her own, he would say before leaving me alone for long stretches of time. I had expected some consideration from him after Mom's passing, but it never came. I wanted someone to be there for me, but I had to accept the loneliness. At 15, you're both an adult and a child, and I was learning to cope with the loneliness. Then, a month after Mom's memorial service, something happened. It was a Saturday, and I was home alone since it was a school holiday. I heard noise outside, Dad directing people loudly. First, get rid of all the unnecessary stuff. Clean up before moving these items, he instructed. Confused, I asked, "What's going on? What are you doing with Mom's stuff?" To my surprise, people started taking out Mom's belongings from the house. "No, don't take that away," I protested, standing in the doorway. The movers seemed troubled but continued their work. I knew they were just doing their job, but I couldn't understand why Dad had asked them to remove Mom's things. "Why are you taking Mom's stuff away? Mom's not here anymore, but no one else will use those things," I pleaded. "I'm having them taken away because no one will use those tools," Dad replied. I blocked the entrance, determined to stop them from taking anything away. "No, what are you planning to do by taking them away?" I asked Dad as he supervised the movers. "We'll sell what we can and dispose of the rest," Dad replied, seeming to enjoy the situation. "Don't take them away. Those are Mom's bridal trousseau," I protested. My mom's parents were wealthy, so the items they prepared for her wedding were valuable. The movers looked troubled by my words. "This trousseau was made by my grandma when Mom was young, for her marriage. They're very important." Someone behind me explained, "Wow, that's amazing stuff." It was Tracy. She pushed past me to examine Mom's things. "I don't know much about it, but is this what they call antique? I'll use it." "Put it back! Please put it back," I pleaded. But the movers didn't stop until Tracy intervened. "Put it back," she said firmly. Dad then put his arm around Tracy's shoulder and happily introduced her. "This person is Dad's new wife, meaning your new mom, Lisa? Nice to meet you." I was shocked. "I only have one mom. I won't accept such a person," I said firmly. Dad smirked. "Then it means you'll be leaving, Lisa. You're still a child. If you don't listen to Dad, you can't live on your own," Dad continued with a smirk. "This is mine and Mom's house. Kick that woman out." Tracy pretended to cry, apologizing to Mom. "Then we can live here together." "Don't let that woman into the house," she said to me. I firmly refused to live with Dad and Tracy together. Tracy leaned on Dad, looking pleased. "Well, if you hate it that much, Lisa will have to leave," Dad said, astonishing me. "Live with your new mom." "If you hate it, leave," I replied casually. Dad and Tracy looked surprised by my response. "Then I'll get ready to leave. You two do as you please," I said, ignoring their stunned expressions, and went back to my room to pack. There wasn't much left in my room since most of my belongings had already been moved elsewhere. Dad never came into my room, so he probably didn't notice. I quickly gathered my school supplies and essentials. "Thank you for everything. From now on, we are strangers. I won't know anything about what happens to you," I said to Dad and Tracy, then walked out of the house. A taxi I had called arrived, and I got in, telling the driver my destination. "Goodbye, Dad," I murmured quietly. I arrived at my grandparents' large house in the suburbs. They welcomed me with tears. "Lisa, you did well. my grandparents said, relieved. We were completely deceived all this time, playing the roles of the good husband and father. They added regretfully. But I was okay. I already knew. Mom knew about Dad's affair, maybe even that Tracy had approached me. She never talked to me about it. I wondered if she would have continued pretending to be happily married with Dad if she hadn't gotten sick. Mom must have made her decisions thinking about what would happen to me after she was gone. She said she would do everything she could to prepare me, including teaching me household chores. I had been helping Mom from a young age, and we cooked together since I was in elementary school. I learned her recipes and could make most of her dishes. In the last year before she passed away, Mom taught me as much as she could, so even when Dad wasn't home and I was living alone, I could manage household tasks like laundry and cleaning. It was all thanks to what Mom had taught me. A month after I left Dad's house, he started calling incessantly. I expected it, but I ignored the calls. I didn't answer my phone throughout the day. When I finally checked it at night, there were over 300 missed calls. The phone kept ringing silently in front of me, lighting up to alert me. Maybe it's about time, I thought, and answered quietly. Hello? I said. Lisa, why didn't you answer sooner? Do you have any idea how many times I've called? Dad yelled immediately. I stayed silent. Hello, Lisa. Why aren't you responding? He continued. I remained quiet. It's Dad. You haven't forgotten my voice, have you? He asked. I wish I could forget, but unfortunately, I remember, I thought. Lisa, help me. I don't have anyone. After I hung up, Dad was silent for a moment before he continued. It's me, Dad. I'm really in trouble. Can't you help? Lisa isn't the kind of daughter who would abandon her parents, right? His pleading voice was sickening. As I said earlier, I don't have a father, Dad, I replied firmly. Lisa, do you have the wrong number? Please check, I added before turning off my phone. This way, I wouldn't have to hear from him again. I planned to cancel the phone soon. The next day, Dad and Tracy showed up at my grandparents' house. Let me see, Lisa. You must have influenced her. Send her back right now, Dad demanded. That's right. A young and beautiful mom came to pick you up. So hurry back home, Lisa. I'll forgive you now. Give back that house, Tracy chimed in. But they were kicked out because they came to my grandparents' house. Before Mom passed away, she transferred ownership of various properties, including the house, to me. The house was a gift from my grandparents when my mom got married. Knowing about her illness, Mom acted quickly and transferred ownership to me. She even paid the inheritance tax properly. However, she didn't inform Dad, so Dad must have thought he had rights over the house, believing Mom's estate belonged to him. That's why he panicked. I asked a lawyer, who was my guardian, to send a notice of eviction to Dad once I learned the facts. The notice stated he had to vacate within a month or I would sue. It was clearly written. At the same time, I had the lawyer write that all the furniture in the house belonged to me, and if anything was damaged, I would claim compensation. Before leaving, I had taken photos of all the household items. I remembered the movers handling things quite roughly, and I worried that Tracy may have caused some damage. The high-quality, one-of-a-kind furniture made by artisans would be costly to repair. I hoped there was no damage. About 10 days after my notice was delivered, I received a counter notice from Dad. It contained a will from Mom stating that all her estate was to be left to Dad. It seemed to be something Mom wrote earlier. The notice demanded that, according to the will, my grandparents should immediately transfer all of Mom's estate to Dad. It accused my grandparents of deceiving their precious granddaughter and destroying the father-daughter relationship, demanding my immediate return. In response, we sent another notice explaining that the will was invalid because there was a newer will. Wills are prioritized by the date they were made, and the one Dad had was dated shortly after Mom was diagnosed. In contrast, another one was dated the day before she passed away. Mom had prepared the will in advance and filled in the date when the time came, handing it over to the lawyer. There could be no newer will than this. In Mom's trembling handwriting, I could feel her determination not to leave anything to Dad. Her will stated that all her estate was to be left to me, and I would be adopted by my grandfather, ensuring Dad would not have custody. All procedures were entrusted to my lawyer, who is my guardian. Although most of Mom's estate was already in my name, she expressed her intent not to leave even a penny to Dad. A few days after sending the second notice, a lawyer hired by Dad contacted us. Dad wanted to see me. Your father believes Lisa is under some misunderstanding. He doesn't understand why you suddenly left and this treatment. What happened? The lawyer inquired. Dad had hidden Tracy's existence from the lawyer, claiming I silently left for my grandparents' house and became unreachable. He also claimed that they called the police when he visited my grandparents' house, and they wouldn't let him see me. He feared I might be held captive by them. Worried sick about me, my daughter is still a minor, he appealed. He said he couldn't believe I would agree to be adopted by my grandpa without his consent as my biological father. My grandparents had deceived me, and I believed their lies. Dad insisted tearfully. She's my only precious daughter left by my wife. Please, I beg you, help me get my daughter back. The lawyer said it was difficult to watch Dad speak so emotionally about me. Your father believes that you must be confused after losing your mother. He, too, lost the love of his life and couldn't be there for you. He thinks that might be why things have been this way since Mom was alive. But why is he so theatrical? Maybe it's because he once aspired to be an actor, I thought to myself. I remembered something on her deathbed. Mom asked Dad to take care of me, and he agreed, holding her hand. Even my skeptical grandparents were moved to tears by this scene, like something out of a drama. I watched coldly as Dad held Mom's hand. I felt no warmth of affection there. He continues to act until the end, doesn't he? I remarked. Then I played a recording for the lawyer. It was from the day the movers came to the house and when they came to my grandparents' house. The recording revealed Dad's true nature. The lawyer's expression changed upon hearing it. Dad had been pretending to care about Mom and me all along, but after Mom passed away, and when it came time to bring Tracy into the house, his true colors finally showed. I finally had the evidence in my hands. Well, this seems to be a different story. My apologies, the lawyer said politely and left. Later, he informed me that he had declined Dad's request and was suing him for breach of contract for lying about the circumstances. After all of this, no one will be willing to represent your father. Indeed, if he told the truth, no one would take his side. But why did Dad continue this act? And why did Mom accept it? There was a reason. Dad was Mom's first love. When she was a middle school student, the same age as I am now, she went to see a play and became a fan of Dad. At the time, Dad belonged to a small theater group and was aspiring to be an actor. Mom started supporting him, and they began dating. My grandparents were against the relationship because Dad was 8 years older and an unsuccessful actor. But shortly after Mom graduated from college and became pregnant with me, they reluctantly allowed the marriage under the condition that they take Mom's surname. Mom was the only daughter of a big company's president. Dad quit acting after getting married and joined a subsidiary of my grandpa's company. Since then, my grandpa had always been watching Dad. We never really trusted him, always feeling that something was off about him. But seeing him at the hospital, I thought he truly loved Mom and me. Dad may not have succeeded as an actor, but he was very good at deceiving us. I, too, would have continued to believe he was a wonderful dad if I hadn't met Tracy. He's really good at acting. But then, how did Mom realize? As I wondered, my grandma showed me a letter from Mom. It was a letter entrusted to the lawyer to be given to my grandparents after her death. Mom had grown suspicious of Dad after they got married. Despite previously adoring him, she started to feel his behavior was fake after she was conceived. Perhaps it was Mom's intuition. When she started investigating because of her suspicions, she discovered Dad had several women. He had many fans who supported him financially because of his good looks. Even so, Mom tried to believe that she was chosen among many, but she eventually learned what people around her were saying. I bagged the president's daughter. I'm going to be the president myself eventually. I don't love her. But she's wealthy, so I'll take care of her. Dad had always seen Mom as a cash cow. Even when she was just a fan, she was shocked to discover this. But she hoped that once the baby was born, they could be happy as a family. After I was born, Dad became a perfect father on the surface, and everyone was deceived. But Mom continued to struggle with wanting to believe in him and not being able to. She kept investigating him regularly. Then Tracy came into the picture. Tracy was a worker at a nightclub Dad frequented. She believed Dad was the heir to a large company and became his mistress, thinking she could replace Mom if Mom stepped aside. But in reality, Dad was just Mom's husband, not my grandpa's son. Tracy didn't know that and came to me with such intentions. Dad and Tracy eventually gave up and left the house. Even if the affair came to light, Mom, who could have filed for divorce, was no longer there. They had nothing more to lose or pay, and they seemed resigned to their fate. But I could sue them. I made sure they knew that. The day Tracy met me, a little girl, she had tried to pressure Mom into leaving by revealing her presence, an act that could be described as maliciously obstructing custody. Simply put, it's possible to claim damages against a mistress who tries to take a parent away from a small child. Tracy denied doing such a thing, but a detective I had hired happened to capture the incident on video. Tracy begged for forgiveness, asking me not to sue, but I was relentless. As a result of the lawsuit, Tracy's actions became widely known, and she could no longer work at the club where she had caused various problems. The club, a high-end establishment, values its reputation above all, and they couldn't afford to employ someone like Tracy. The club asked Tracy to resign, and Tracy threatened to sue me for defamation. I told her to go ahead with suing me. It wouldn't bother me at all. In fact, it would probably be more troublesome for Tracy. In the end, she didn't sue and left the club. It's unlikely she'll be able to work in such high-end places anymore. My lawsuit is still ongoing. Even if I win, I won't get much money, but that's not the point. I will not let them escape. I intend to fight to the end. Dad could no longer stay at his company. Originally, he got in through my grandpa's connections, and being the son-in-law, he was expected to eventually take over. So no one could say anything against him, no matter what he did. However, this incident, being kicked out of the house by his own daughter, and the revelation of his long-standing affair with Tracy made everyone aware. It turns out he wasn't very competent at his job to begin with. Well, he could always put on a competent face. Acting was the only thing he was good at, making him seem like a sharp individual. But frankly, he was incompetent. Everyone came to realize this once again. Really, with all that acting talent, and yet not making it as an actor, the entertainment industry must really not just be about talent. Maybe those who are called stars have something Dad lacked, an aura perhaps. Anyway, with Dad's true nature exposed, all the pent-up grievances of those around him erupted. He became a pariah everywhere he went, not just among his colleagues, but also among clients who looked at him with disdain. Because he had a decent appearance, even the female employees who were once favorable towards him now looked at him with contempt. He stayed at the company for a while, trying to make himself small, but eventually the situation became too unbearable and he quit. Now he's supposedly living in a small apartment with Tracy. He's called a few times asking for help. But we are strangers now, and not just any stranger. I have no obligation to help someone I detest. As expected, Tracy did damage my mom's bridal attire. So when I demanded compensation, they paid up, probably thinking they couldn't afford another lawsuit. They might have used Dad's severance pay or savings, or they might even be in debt, but that's none of my concern. I made it clear before. From now on, it's up to the two of you. I have officially become my grandpa's adopted child, though it doesn't change my name or much else, just the legal relationship. From high school, I'll be studying abroad, preparing to take over my grandpa's legacy. Losing Mom was very sad and lonely. I still cry when I think of her, but I can't cry forever. Mom must have anticipated such a day would come, ensuring I wouldn't struggle with languages by making me learn several. She really raised me to survive on my own, no matter where I go. I feel this deeply. I'm just starting to walk towards a bright future for myself to meet mom's expectations. I want to absorb various things abroad, and I'll definitely meet someone who loves me sincerely. In this respect, mom was a cautionary tale. Saying this, it felt as if the mom in the photo smiled a little sheepishly.